this month's First Person Podcast, episode 29, in a technological miracle, we have so many people on the podcast. We have myself, you can find me on Twitter, I'm Betsy Bray, at Betsy Bray. We have Chris Lawrence joining us as usual.
You can find me on Twitter, at Quips Lawrence.
We also have Elise Vist.
That's me. You can find me on Twitter, at Visticuffs.
Also joining us is Will Fast.
You can find me on Twitter at WillFast.
Rob Parker.
Hello, I'm Rob Parker. You can find me on Twitter at RobotParking. You can also find First Person Scholar on Twitter at FPS Weekly.
This is all true. In addition, in a special, extra complicated podcast, we also have Jeremy Antley joining us.
Hello, everyone. You can find me on Twitter at JSAntley.
Also relevant to the topic at hand, but unable to join us for recording, Danjo, Matthew Perks, Alexandra Orlando, and Pearson Brown. This is kind of a special podcast for FPS because we are talking about a hell of a mess that we made. As a team-breaking exercise, we played a game called Subterfuge. Subterfuge is a week-long, real-time strategy game about submarines. It is a big, ugly mess where it takes forever to move everything, but the main point of it is it's a diplomacy and lying game, more or less. The purpose is to mine plutonium or something.
Neptunium.
Neptunium. Mine stuff, build subs, bust up people's bases, and lie about what you're doing so you can screw other people over. Does that sound like an apt description of the game?
And it all happens in real time.
Yeah, real time. It takes place over a week.
Yeah, it's like if you were stuck in a room playing Risk for a couple hours, and then
that's how you always play Risk.
And then no one could leave, and then also,
okay.
and then
true.
Also you were just chatting with each other forever.
And also, it's not a couple hours; it's like 7 days.
It is 7 full days.
That's if you're lucky. My first game went. My first game went for twice that. It literally ended because I betrayed my closest ally in my first game because he threatened to extend it an extra 12 hours.
So I think folks are understanding what kind of game this is, and we got a group of 10 of us together, some folks from FPS and some friends of FPS, and we decided to give it a try. It was interesting. So one of the things we wanted to talk about, and I think it's something that's really important to talk about when it comes to games like this. The design seems to thrive on evoking really ugly feelings. It is an uncomfortable game. It is full of tension. It makes you very anxious. It made me anxious. It causes some pretty uncomfortable, ugly feelings. So can we talk a little bit about how we felt while we were playing this and, what made that worse or better? Like, what helped? What made it worse? How did you feel?
Well, for me personally, I think the first 24 hours were definitely the most intense for me because it was just like I'd heard so much about this game, and of course you hear a lot about it online and on the Twitter sphere, and so I was excited to do it. And definitely the first 24 hours, it was a lot of like, okay, here we go, expand, move out. What do I do? What does this mean? Am I making factories now? What should I be getting? Specialists? Interesting. It was a lot of things coming at me the first 24 hours, and after I got over that initial wave, I think it stabilized a little bit, at least for me. And then it became a lot less intense. I only had really anxiety when I wanted to send something out because of the time distances involved. That when I first decided to do something, that was the most anxious part. And then I found that as I let it go, it was like, there it goes. It's off.
Goodbye, submarines. You will arrive at your target in 28 hours.
So I felt anxious from the moment Rob asked me if I wanted to play, because I knew I would hate this game.
Chris, will you talk about your feelings, please?
I'll give it a go. I would say I had kind of the opposite experience anxiety-wise. I started out very calm, just thinking, this is a whole thing. It's going to be a mess. That's fine. Just watching the screen now and then going, oh, little submarines. Isn't this cute?
For context, Chris won this game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, for the listeners at home.
I found that my anxiety began to mount as the game advanced and the alliances solidified, cracked, fragmented, etc. And I found it had very little to do with the score or the mechanics, possibly because, yeah, I was winning for most of it, but I found most of my stress came from the interpersonal relationships in the game and how they kind of blend with the exterior relationships you have with the people you play with.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have had no anxiety against people you didn't work with or know or were friends with?
Something like that.
Yeah, I definitely thought playing it that just being, I mean, I talked to some of y'all on Twitter a lot, but I live in like Portland, Oregon, so I definitely was outside of the groups that I assume a lot of y'all are in fairly close contact. So in a lot of ways, when I put the game down, it definitely was like out of sight, out of mind, at least from my perspective. And I think maybe a lot of thing is also that, Chris, you definitely had a lot more, I think, action going on like day 3, 4, and 5. Whereas for me, a lot of it was initially like helping Danjo like solidify his front against attacks. And I attacked, see, I didn't know whose names were attached to the pseudonyms. So I'm trying to think who I had on my southern border. But my action with them kind of ended on day like 2. And then I kind of had 2 days of just build up. And then it was kind of the final push. So I wonder if that was why it was more intense for you, is just because you had a lot more going on.
You were also hiking for a while, and it took every fiber of my being to not broadcast that to everyone.
Okay, so yeah, full caveat. I was on my like 10-year anniversary with my longtime girlfriend and fiance now.
My God.
Getting married to.
Well, congratulations. Why were you playing Subterfuge?
Well, she didn't know I was playing Subterfuge, and because I'm so addicted to my phone anyway, it's pretty easy to play off anytime I get on my phone to do something for like 30 seconds. And I'll tell you what else, and something I found out from the game, and I think is really applicable here, is that I didn't unlock the level 2 on Subterfuge, which lets you plan multiple moves, more than 2. Like, if you don't unlock the second level, you can only plan like 2 moves ahead in time. So
you can watch a video to schedule more for a short period. Like for 2 hours, you can just do schedule unlimited after you watch an ad.
Oh, I did not know that. So I didn't know how to do that. And honestly, I probably still wouldn't have done that, because for me, it was like 2 was perfect because, like I said, a lot of it was I wasn't under attack a lot. I didn't have to deal with multiple fronts of enemies coming at me. So I could pretty much stay focused on one area. And so playing out 2 attacks, it was like, okay, in like 15 hours, launch this sub, and a lot of it was stuff when I was sleeping, right? Because I could pretty much keep a little timer or know about when I needed to check back in to do a promotion or move subs. And for me, I felt like 2 moves was just perfect. I think if I would have had the ability to do like 10 or 15 moves, I would have had that serious like analysis paralysis. Or that's where I come from, a war game genre called AP, where you just stare at a board forever and try to think about how to move factors across a board and what's going to give you the best attack and the best exploit. Like, I feel like having only 2 moves nonetheless made the game still feel very spacious, but also like really constrained, and that I was like, well, I'm pretty much just going to focus on this one goal.
As someone who did that level 2 upgrade specifically to be able to play in this game, that dramatically changed how I handled it. I feel like there's like several levels you go through in terms of dealing with. So one of the things you can do, I guess, for a bit of context, is in Subterfuge you can plan your moves, which is, I think, kind of clear. But like, you can scrub for. You have a little time machine where you can scrub forward in time, and it's like, oh, great, I don't have to wake up at 2 in the morning. I can just schedule my move to go off at 2 in the morning, and this time machine says everything is okay. And then the first time that fucks up, because the time machine only shows you what you know at that moment in time projected into the future. So just outside of your sonar range, there could be 4 or 5 attacks that are coming in. They don't show up because you've scrubbed forward in time, because you don't know that as a player. Nick Capizoli wrote about specifically that function in for Giant Bomb, and we'll link to that article in the bottom. And so the first level is like, oh, I trust this. The second level is, oh god, I don't trust this at all because it's giving me false information. And then the third level of it, that is, I think you like upgrade to security level 2, and you basically build like an endless war machine that will run if you're there or not. And you are just kind of guiding this thing, and if you fall asleep at the wheel, it will probably go out and crush someone if you're not careful.
That is distressing.
Yes.
At least, how did you feel while playing this whole thing?
I hated it, but I also felt like redeemed because I knew I would hate it, and so it felt good to be like accurate. I don't like games that require you to lie to people, or games that encourage you to make real world alliances and then break them, because to me, the whole point of playing a game with other people is to like playing a game with other people. And I think I felt the same kind of stress that Chris felt, which is that I was most worried about how my friends were feeling. And when one of my friends was not feeling great, as happened, I think that was the most anxious moment of the game for me. I definitely wanted to stop. I wanted to quit everything, but then I just quit the big alliance, and then I felt better because I stopped giving a shit about anything.
Embracing nihilism.
Yep. That was the strategy for our small faction, I think. Will, how did it? You got into it, Will.
I didn't find it very anxiety-inducing. I don't know.
Really?
It was just fun. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's a game, and nothing that I said or did in the game is a reflection on the actual me. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
there was some salty language from you, I believe.
Was there?
It was from you as well, Rob.
What? I was good and pure of heart.
Oh, that's what we're calling it.
No, but I don't remember you saying anything salty. I don't remember me saying anything,
I mean, there was that one part where I called you barbarians.
So for a bit of context.
Yeah, we should contextualize this a bit.
At the beginning of the game, Danjo started an alliance, the Republic.
The Republic.
The Republic of... The Central United Republic of
Boat Hell.
Or something?
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, Boat Hell.
And I was invited into it very quickly because I had Danjo on my border. I invited Will into it, and I basically invited anyone who was on my border into it, because I didn't want to fight with anyone. And the stated goal of this republic was prosperity for all. The idea that if we all just worked together, we could vote for a winner and decide collectively who would be mining the most Neptunium. And eventually, I think there were 8 of us in the alliance.
8 out of 10 players joined this alliance.
Yeah, and within the first day and a bit, we had the alliance, and then there was a Discord server thing. And I think those were the moments where I was both most anxious and most bored simultaneously. Because I was constantly checking things, checking notifications, making sure I was doing things in line with the alliance. And then, are we gonna, name shit?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, it's not like he's ashamed of it.
Yeah. Pearson found out that we had a Discord and was upset or annoyed that...
Annoyed is probably a better word.
Yeah. It was annoyed that there was an 8-person alliance in a 10-person game. One that had a Discord, which kind of feels like out of game in some ways, and was working against what Pearson thought of as the kind of spirit of play. Because we were all kind of anti-playing the game.
Yeah. And I would also say, when we all joined this larger alliance, I was under the impression that Pearson had refused because that was a character he was playing. I think it's pretty typical for people to, play a villainized version of themselves or set up some sort of drama in the game by refusing to, do things or, going all out. And Pearson's first move in the game on the first day is he sent 2 subs in every direction and hit everybody. So I think we all just kind of assumed that Pearson was being the antagonist here. So when he wasn't in the Discord, I wasn't really thinking about it that way. But
yeah, and there'd been some messages about the sociologist alliance.
The Sociology Alliance, because the 2 players, Matthew and Pearson, who weren't in the chat, were both the sociology students on FPS. So there was a lot of joking about that, and it all seemed like everything was above board, but not everybody felt it that way, I suppose.
So would you say that everything seemed above board until there was a man overboard?
Exactly! More boat puns!
It's not uncommon for people to quit, just in general. the thing that I found that I was trying to at least communicate to Pearson, because I think to a certain degree part of it, or at least my interpretation of that, was that that also Pearson felt like this was a hopeless situation in which there were 8 people arrayed against him, and he also had like he was fighting a battle on either side with me. Like basically there were 3 people coordinating against him and sharing screenshots in the Discord, and that having that surfaced to you is harrowing.
Yeah.
Just because you're just like, this game is already like, especially as at that point in the game where you are about 24 hours in, things are starting to pop off a little bit, and you never feel like you have enough information or the right information, and it's just like you kind of feel like you're thrashing. And I think the players that make it kind of say, okay, this is a nightmare. I'm just gonna turtle. I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing and just relax and get my bearings. And then the other completely perfectly valid response is to just fucking quit. Because every part of your body is like, you know what? I'm out. I'm like, this is not worth my time. Recently, like, I'm sure because he tweeted about this, friend of the site. So yeah, I guess a bit of context is, I'm the kind of broken person that played this game, and within 2 days after it, because I was tweeting about it, Nick Capizzoli rolled up and said, hey, I'm going to do an informal impromptu game of Subterfuge. And I went, sure, I hate myself. Let's do this. So I'm already a game of Subterfuge past this last one. And usually there's a refractory period where I don't play it. But in this case, I didn't give myself that reprieve. So I went into that as well. And I know Alex Cebulski is Mutant Brides on Twitter, was interested in getting in on this game, and there just wasn't enough room for this one, but I told him I'd get him for the next one. And he also similarly played it for a few days, basically tweeted this game is fun, it's very good, it does not mesh well with me at a cognitive level, and I am out. And that, him piecing out of the game was one, completely a rational response to it, and then also it led to that game becoming a fucking shit show, because I had a 12-hour lead on most of the other players and sent everything to go and take Alex's territory, and it led to me having this completely untenable untenable amount of territory that I couldn't defend at all, and it just led to that whole game being a complete weird nightmare. But I think actually quitting is not that's a completely rational response.
Oh yeah, I agree. I didn't fault Pearson for it at all. It was more how we all felt in the aftermath of that.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And I think even in that context, Pearson's situation was not helpless at all. The game is very bad about communicating exactly how balanced its military situation is. The combat is balanced to the point where it is extremely hard to eliminate someone, even with 3 or 4 people coordinating around them.
But I don't really think that's the point, to be honest. I think the feeling, I'm speaking for Pearson, but I know how I would feel in that moment, is that I was left out of a kind of level of the gameplay, right? That, I knew, because, Rob, you had told me that, a way to play this game is to just kind of turtle, not really do anything, join whatever alliances are offered to you, and just sit there until you figure shit out. I'm not sure Pearson had that information. And I think being confronted with the fact that there was this whole other level of gameplay, especially happening on a Discord server outside of the message server, within the game, I think that's a really unpleasant moment. Or at least I would feel really hurt and betrayed in that moment. I'm probably giving feelings to Pearson that he didn't have at that moment. But I would feel as though I was not playing the whole game, and that people were playing the whole game and watching me not play it. And I think that's just a problem that I have with social games, or games where the boundary between real life and the game are intentionally blurred.
Yeah, Chris, I think, messaged me about that at some point, where this game just absolutely shatters any concept of that magic circle, or whatever you want to describe it as. So the thing for me, especially I guess my feelings, I guess in my first game, just to call back to it, is I was absolutely that person on that ledge ready to fucking quit. like 24 hours in. I actually have a journal from my first game that I was trying to keep notes from, and it was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't, like, these are all people I respect. I don't know why the fuck I'm here. I did the tutorials. I thought I understood this game, but I don't understand a fucking thing I'm doing. And, like, I feel like all of these people are just super extra about everything, and I don't know if I have that in me to go and do that. And eventually did kind of come around on it, but one of the things that was frustrating for me is, like, I didn't know the combat stuff as well as other players in that game, but what I did know is, like, oh, I've, like, taken a course on military rhetoric. Like, I wonder if any of that stuff will be useful. And when I kind of went down that path of, like, stepping back from my emotions and trying to, like, okay, I'm feeling this way for a reason. How am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling this way? And, like, the game just doesn't stop. Those notifications, that sense of dread that you get when it's just like, there's a notification on my thing that just says multiple subs have appeared on your sonar, and I'm like, I don't even want to open the game. What if I just uninstall it? What if I just uninstall it and never get this notification again? Wouldn't that be great? And I felt like I was under siege by the game's design itself. And so when I was, like, kind of going back and reading some research to try to write, like, some kind of critical paper or something about it, I started thinking about Michael McDonald, who's a professor at the University of Waterloo. He's done stuff about rhetoric and military, and he's written 2 pieces for Enculturation about Marshall McLuhan and, like, information warfare, essentially. And part of that is, like, the idea of information warfare as sort of, like, a way of, like, targeting and attacking the way that we understand and process data. And I think Subterfuge is like, a very good example of those lessons applied. It's confined to this device, but this device is my window to a lot of things, and it kind of exposes how much I'm actually dependent on this little bit of internet in my pocket. And when you add something that just causes nothing but endless anxiety for days on end, above and beyond just the usual background radiation of anxiety of having Twitter installed on my phone, it feels like I'm actually under siege from just the way that game forces me to deal with its information and notifications and stuff like that. It was like, whenever I'm playing, it's the first thing I look at when I wake up, even though I'm, like, barely conscious and I'm kind of cranky. And I don't know why I keep doing this to myself.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm baffled.
I think for me, the way I was able to reconcile it was by coming up with personas and meeting other players that didn't want to just do the horrible social kind of competitive aspect. It was more a matter of, like, how do we, like, it was still social in that I was communicating with other players, but it was more like, I'm not interested in winning this game. I am interested in seeing how much I can affect how other players play that game. And so I put together, like, one of those Galaxy Brain memes that was like, the sort of the top level of it was essentially, like, treating Subterfuge as, like, a game of solitaire where I'm pushing factions and players around to meet completely, like secret goals, essentially, that are completely alien and almost, like, antagonistic to the way that the game is designed.
So you were playing a game
with
on us?
No,
yes.
Yes, that's what
just make it a new game
also,
from the
by
game.
the way, that's what Pearson said.
I will say that I was playing against type in this game, in that I went into combat. That's how you know that I'm playing against type, because I fought Will. Otherwise, I would not have done it. If I was actually playing this game, this is what I would have done. I would have joined Danjo's alliance. I would have nominated myself and made the case that, like, I know more about the game than any of you. I'm our best hope to win this game. Or I would have nominated Danjo and me as a backup. And then I would have just said, okay, Dan, build all of your mines along our border and leave the defense to me.
Yeah, right.
And the moment he wound up engaged in other fights outside of it, I would just send a salvo of subs across and take all the mines, and then the game would end in 24 hours.
I was really worried that Danjo was going to do that to me. We were so close, and so when I started the game, immediately what I was thinking, without having played it, was that space is big, time is vast, and so you can't really, like, do the both, right? You can't get everywhere. So the ideal form is to make an alliance where you're in the center. And so everybody else is on the outside dealing with all the pressures from everybody else. And you can just sort of, like, hum and haw on the inside, build up, and then eventually take over a neighbor. I totally expected that to happen. I was expecting the sudden but inevitable betrayal kind of thing going on. That to me, I felt like was going to happen. And then it didn't, and I was pleasantly surprised. And so then I just kind of kept rolling with it and expanding on the outer frontier. But I definitely thought Danjo was going to just roll in and take, like, 3 or 4 of my factories or whatever, because I had them so close to
he had a stupid amount of capacity. Like, it was unreasonable, the amount of capacity that he had. It was like, he had like 700 subs and like was at max capacity and just was sitting on it. Like, hadn't dropped a mine, hadn't done anything. And I was like, damn, you need to do something with this. You are outstripping everyone in production. Like, just go and do something, please.
So I'm gonna change the topic because this is the boring stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I really hated this game.
Oh no.
Like, it's fine. I played it and I thought about it and that was interesting. But it's 100% not the kind of game I would ever play for so many reasons. But what I find interesting is that some of us really went in like the Persona route. And once Pearson quit, I felt a lot freer to play my own Persona. So I did thank him for quitting because that was my impetus to actually play the game the way I didn't hate.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I mean, I guess, Chris, you had a bit of a Persona, but it kind of just felt like you.
It did just feel like you, Chris. Were you using a Persona?
Yeah, it was probably... That Persona was definitely determined by the things that make me anxious real world, though. So...
Fair.
I'm terrified of conflict, so I played a pacifist. I have
And
depression, so I played like a nihilist who would periodically write cryptic death poetry on the message board.
That's all you wrote. That's
Yeah,
all
that
you
is
wrote.
I got other messages.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I would get, like, actual messages, but I mean, as far as, like, public posts go, I definitely, we all wrote differently in private messages than the public chat, I think. Like, Jeremy, your Persona.
Oh my god, yes.
Jeremy, please explain. I loved it, but please explain.
So, I kind of knew this game was going to be really intense, and so I also kind of figured that I may not last long in the game, because I figured I would just do something like overcommit to one front and then just get totally destroyed. So I decided early on that I was going to have a fun little thing, and at first it was just a one-off, and my persona was a regional manager or manager of a Davy Jones's deep discount locker. It is the place, your one-stop shop for all things aquatic. And so my original goal was that every day I was going to post like a new ad, because what it felt like to me was that you would play this game and then you would get these ads that were like straight from like the 1980s, like TV ads for like your local business where they say their name like 500 times, you know, they're like, come, like where I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, and we had this ad for Spangles that was like a local food, you know, divey food joint. And they said their name like 15 times every ad. They were like, come to Spangles, we have the Spangle Burger and it's so spangly, you know? And so that way you'd always like remember it, but it was very like local TV production value. So I wanted to have ads that kind of came in and were like, you know, so every day would be like a different theme. And I'm trying to think I think I started off with just like, come get deep discount stuff. And then the second day it was like, oh, decorate that sub with like some new seaweed and kelp varieties. You know, we've got it on discount like the Home Depot, but it's Davy Jones's deep discount locker. And,
it made me sad that I couldn't buy stuff.
Yeah, I was like, why can't I buy things?
Yeah, if I didn't have my
storefront
storefront was everywhere.
Animal Crossing, and I could go to the deep discount store.
Yeah.
And just come get what you need. I kind of saw, that's when I saw my persona or my character is like when I take a place over, that was just opening a new franchise, you know? Just having like a new outpost at this new place that my subs came in and brought all their great deep discount goods, and everybody's like, it's just so much better to have him run the show, you know, than us take over. Yeah, so I think at one point even, I forget who played Zero Love, but when they, you know, betrayed the Alliance, I was like, your discounts revoked, you know, like your Trident level discounts out. Things like that.
That was Matthew, by the way.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
If I'd have been like a little more funny about it or knew the game better, I could have played it like, if you guys ever read Catch-22, if you know the character is one Milo Minderbender who like sells a share of the corporation to everybody in his unit. But then later in the book, you find out he's also like selling stuff to the Germans. So at one point in the book, he organizes like an air raid so the Germans come in, but he also organizes the defense so he can shoot down the Germans. And he's trying to make money. And like his whole thing is like, everybody's got a share, you know, like everybody's got a piece of the action. And so if I would have been like a little more on top of it, I could have played the Milo Minderbender and tried to like be in different alliances and sell different things to different people. And that could have been more fun. But, you know, I think what it gets back to is I really did enjoy doing the Persona. But I think in terms of the game, I wish the game would have just been 5 days instead of 7 days. But yeah, I did like doing the Davy Jones's deep discount locker. That was a nice little, and whoever played Quips, they messaged me and they were like, it's been refreshing to have you actually be this way. Cause there was a lot of feelings. We've talked about a lot of tension. And then as you get towards the end of the game, it's sort of that inevitable speeding towards the end feeling where you kind of disengage. And that was one way I could still do something fun and have fun with the game.
Yeah, it was good. It was a breath of fresh air that was very helpful.
I'm very mad that I had to make the Crimson Tide now available at Davy Jones.
Yeah.
I feel like that was an obvious one right there. I mean,
I'm
low-hanging fruit.
I'm reading some quotes here. At one point, Rob said, "Much bloodshed has turned the waters of Willfast Domain into a pleasing Crimson Tide, available on Blu-ray and DVD at Davy Jones' deep discount locker."
Yeah, that was a good one.
Will, you had a bit of a persona there too. I think you might have just been being like Will extra, but care if I read a few choice quotes?
Will plus.
No, it's decidedly was a persona.
"I shall be wiped from the universe long before I bow to the Republic. I choose death. And you want to know at that particular mine you are attacking, Robot Parking. I've employed a number of underage children, minors, if you will.
God damn it.
I may be an evil venture capitalist who uses child labor, but you don't see me killing children in the name of peace. You will be, if you take my mine at Poseidon, you will be held accountable by a tribunal for your war crimes." How was your persona, Will?
My persona kind of, I would say, evolved throughout the game. I don't know. First of all, the second what do you call it? The alliance of people, whatever.
United Republic of Boat Hell.
whatever you were calling yourselves. The minute I was asked,
the United Republic of Boat Hell. Say the name.
The Republic, the evil Republic.
The Republic of Boat Hell.
The United. Peace and prosperity for all.
Anyway, as soon as I was asked to join, I knew I was going to attack them.
You're welcome.
And so I was a little hesitant, if Elise will back me up, that I didn't want to join right away. Because I thought it was maybe 2 or 3 people. Then I find out it's everyone, and I'm sort of like, well, I'm going to have to join or, be immediately destroyed. And I really didn't attack the Republic for as long as I possibly could. I was always planning to, but I was like, I'm going to wait until I'm a bit stronger. But I wasn't finding any allies outside the Republic. Everyone was doing their own thing. So I kind of had to go a little kamikaze.
Yeah, when you were moving those troops around, when you were moving the boat around with the specialists on it, I was like, I'm pretty sure Will's going to attack me. Like, just reading the board, I was like, that's coming for me at some point.
And
then it went away. And
I did not attack you. You attacked me.
That's true. I had to come up with a reason.
I know I felt very safe with Will on my border. I had Will on one side, and then Danjo on the other, who was for a while attacking me.
Oh.
But every time he asked for something, or every time he went to attack something, I just abandoned it. So then eventually he stopped attacking me.
People really don't like it when you do that, but it's actually a very good strategy.
Yeah. It was like, well, I'm not going to waste my stuff and worry about this, so I'm just going to leave. And then he can have it, because I don't care.
I didn't get attacked the entire game.
Nice.
Every time somebody started to attack me, I was like, well, hey, friend, let's talk about this. And I ended up, everybody who attacked me, there were a couple stray bits and pieces, but nobody ever sent anything fully towards me. I had Will on one side, I had Pearson on one side, I had Matthew on the other, and I had Rob on the other. And every time one of you would send something my way, I'd be like, hey, no, let's not do that. And, eventually they were all sent as, they'd be like, oh, well, how about let's negotiate, can I have this and you take that, and we'll agree to not, you do you and I'll do me, and we won't do each other. Right? So, eventually, I had my territory and I had alliances with everybody around me, and if things were getting, we're like, oh, well, we talked about that, that's my mine, you can have that one. You change your subs into a gift, and I'll change mine into a gift, and then we'll send them back to each other. I was hardcore pacifisting.
Yeah, I kept waiting for your attack.
Oh, no, I had no interest in it. The queerdom was never attacking anyone.
Yep.
After
that was the big problem with them,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't attack anyone.
No, I told you we were peaceful. After Pearson left the game, Elise and I chose to leave the Republic very noisily with a lot of fanfare in the chat. I should say we didn't do anything warlike. We were like, we don't like where this is going. We're going our own goddamn way, and we are the united queerdom of Boat Hell, and we are out, motherfuckers. And then we both just concentrated on mining and like making nice with our neighbors and making friends in Boat Hell. Watching the fire rain down. Which, I don't know, I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah, I've actually made friends in Subterfuge. Like, there is a chat with myself and one other person, and we've circled other people in as well, but I was friends with the other person before we played Subterfuge together. But there was one person out there who I've literally become friends with as a result of just playing in Subterfuge.
How?
Yeah,
we're all good and pure of heart.
No, Rob, I need to share with the folks at home a little bit here. You posted this on your Twitter, but I need to emphasize. Were you using the same persona in that game that you were in ours? Because some choice quotes.
No.
some choice quotes from you, Rob.
Which quotes?
Kill you? My good barbarians, we don't need to kill you. Your factories and outposts will eventually join their rightful place among the Republic. You definitely didn't sound like the First Order, Rob. And as you starve your children in the inky mines, with little succor to them but warlike chants and beating chests, their parents will long for a better, more peaceful life in the Republic. What I'm saying is, we don't need to force civilization on you. The arc of history bends towards peace and prosperity, and we will be waiting with open arms. In the meantime, enjoy your personal cask of Amontillado. So,
okay, the Amontillado reference, maybe. Okay. So...
Are you saying Rob went to the Amontillado well one too many times here?
A little bit, maybe. Well, I mean, it was interesting, but I was just like, there's some things going on here, bud.
That specific Edgar Allan Poe reference came from Nick Capozzoli, who I may or may not have betrayed in February in the service of putting a very good person on the podium. I basically fixed him up with... So listen, I stuck a dagger in his ribs and I twisted. And then other people did that too. But I'd already made a Julius Caesar reference in like my previous game. So we
There definitely was a kind of like Empire versus Will's like evil capitalism versus the little like pockets of queer anarchism.
Yeah, queer anarchists. That was us.
We're just like, I don't want to hurt anyone.
I will say a personal highlight of mine was when I was elected first among equals of the United Central Boat Hell Republic. Gave a great speech about how we were going to unite all the people under a peaceful banner. And then 6 hours later, I resigned my position because it did not appear that I was going to be able to win. So I was like, I'm the new leader. Hail the new leader. You know, the leader is dead. Long live the leader.
Good boy.
Yeah, I just kind of fell into that position at the end of the game without ever having cast a vote throughout the game or acknowledging that I had been elected to that position.
Yeah, we totally just gave you power. I like made a motion to like transfer first among equalship to you, and then I was like, if we get a majority vote, it happens, and it did.
A good quote from Chris in the chat was, quickly recalculates Paragon and Renegade points. Like, what is but actually, Chris, have you told the Republic your wheelings and dealings with the rest of us?
Yeah, I should probably.
I am telling on you, friend.
Oh, do they think he won?
It made me laugh that they were trying to claim Chris's victory.
Yeah, and we were like,
wait a second.
we set Chris up. The rest of us did.
What was interesting for me during my playthrough was that despite my intense anxieties at alienating someone, I was simultaneously playing with everyone and playing with nobody at all.
Yeah, that's good.
I set for myself some rules when I started the game, and they kind of influenced my persona, but it was more to do with just how I wanted to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I can tell, I never lied to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if I noticed that somebody was going to be attacked and I didn't know, I would tell them.
Yeah, he warned me about Will, even though I was already kind of figuring Will was coming that way.
And
I
I'm
did
willing to
not
bet he
attack
warned
you
Will
at any
about
point.
you.
I was fortifying my border in
Uh-huh.
anticipation. I never attacked you.
Okay. Sure.
Scroll back the clock, see what happened.
Rewind.
So, despite my anxieties, which never really subsided... Oh, that's a terrible pun.
Mm-hmm.
More sub puns.
I managed to build up a disproportionate and entirely undeserved amount of goodwill with the majority of the players. And it got to the point, towards the end, where I felt like I was like, this isn't going to come out right. I felt like I was really little fingering everybody.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
So despite the fact that I was trying to overall reduce conflict and avoid conflict, I still felt like I was kind of manipulating people and felt anxious about that. So that was fun.
That's interesting.
I never felt manipulated by you. I mean, I knew everybody was out for their own ends, and we were all giving each other, a leg up. When we saw that we could, get Chris in a position to win, then we were like, cool, let's do that. At that point, I was like, I could have probably made a decent go of it, but it was going to take too long for my subs to actually get to make a second mind that would have, gotten me there. So I kind of, the last 3 days, I was like, well, that's that. So then I just kind of, started talking to people more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny how, you get to the end of the game and you start to realize that the game world actually shrinks as time goes on. You really feel like it's much bigger, but then because it takes so long for your subs to get places that, you get down to the last 3 days, and if you didn't plan on that last 3 days 5 days ago, you don't really have the ability to capitalize or take advantage of the last 3 days of play sometimes. And I definitely felt that way. And I mean, our game accelerated and kind of ended quickly because of Chris being able to get all the mines and just mine out. But essentially, I was thinking, oh, could I launch strikes to do this, or could I do? And I was like, no, I can't. Even if I scrub ahead 24 hours, 40 hours, I can't get anywhere, anything meaningful.
Here's a question. I found myself wanting the subs to move faster. Would that have made the game better or worse if it didn't take so goddamn long to move things?
Well, I'm going to go back to the one point I made earlier, if the game had been just 5 days and the subs moved faster because the game's only 5 days long, I wonder if that would have made it a little different. I mean, I liked the fact in a way that it took so long to do things, because again, it was just fire and forget. You just let your subs go off and they take 20 hours to get there, and that's just that.
That was agonizing. I hated that.
Because especially when you would see, you would go launch on a base, which I didn't understand this game in the way that attacks and defense work, like Rob talks about, in the sense that as you get hammered down by an opponent, they have to go longer and longer distances to get to your outposts or your bases, and they can't just keep the same sub momentum rolling. They have to reinforce it. That takes time. But as you get pushed back, your interior lines become shorter, and so you're able to reinforce your positions or attack faster and counterattack better. So it is really difficult to get rid of someone. I would think it would be difficult to do that, and I wonder if shortening the time would make that work differently, because it would just, I don't know. I did feel like my gut instinct with this game was that it really should just be 5 days long.
What do you think, Elise?
Yeah, I would never play it.
Well, yeah, I know. But in our magical world, where Elise plays this game again.
Yeah. I think a final end time, it ends at 5, whoever's got the most at that point is the winner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would feel maybe more sustainable, but it would feel less like maybe what they're trying to achieve, which is this kind of more real sense of
boat hell.
Yeah, of boat hell. I think adding those kinds of, it ends in 5 days, the boats move faster, but I guess it's not like those boats move accurately. They just move.
Yeah, they move to their own metrics. I couldn't tell you how fast subs move or how big the space actually was or anything like that. And I mean, it is kind of arbitrary, but I was just really irritated that it took so long for anything to happen.
Yeah, I think if there were a shorter time span between the different outposts, whatever that arbitrary amount of time is, just a little bit faster.
Yeah, it made me care a lot less. I would have been more engaged and more anxious, and probably I might have considered not being a pacifist. I maybe would have actually fought people. But I was just like, I can do things here. I can't do things anywhere else. So I didn't. I also went into the game, it was the first time I opened it, was when we started. So I didn't do any tutorials or anything. I was just like, well, here we are in the boat hell.
I was going to say, I think hypothetically, if the subs moved twice as quickly and the game was half as long, instead of 7 days of being kind of unhappy, I would have had 3 or 4 days of being very unhappy.
I agree.
And I'm not sure, whether that's a net win in terms of trade-off or not when I think about it. Because I think if the subs accelerated, so too would the pace of the negotiations and the conversation, which was the part of the game that I found both the most engaging and the most stressful.
What do you think, Will?
Oh, what do I think about speeding up the subs?
Yeah.
All I know, I played a quick game of this just to sort of get the feel for it before our game together, and I had a ton of fun. Everyone was attacking each other. It was a great game. And then our game, everyone was like, let's just be pacifist. And I was like, well, this is boring. I'm going to make it interesting. So I feel like
Will was the villain all along. It wasn't Pearson.
I had a really fun time.
Will was my best
I was trying to
friend.
get Pearson to like villain up with me, but he didn't want to. I don't know.
No, he and Matthew had an alliance early on, and that's why he rejected the Boat Hell Republic, was because he's like, I already have an alliance. So
Can we talk a bit about Matthew being just a fucking killer?
was he? Nobody attacked me. I
I
didn't
had
see
no idea.
anything. Like, I was just like, nothing happens in this game.
I just saw screenshots of him running down Alex. Like, he was chasing down Alex with an assassin. Like, that wasn't gonna get him any territory, but it was gonna kill her queen.
Matt was Zero Love?
Yeah, that was Zero Love.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, that was so funny because then I started seeing that sub and I was like, because he had an assassin and a pirate on it. So the assassin kills any specialist. If it gets into battle with another sub, it kills all the specialists in there, or all the enemy specialists. And if you have the pirate, then you can target individual subs that are moving, and you move, like twice as fast to get them. And then when you finish your battle, then you move 4 times as fast to your nearest outpost. It seemed like he made like a hunter killer sub. And I was like, damn, that's awesome. Like, I was so new to the game that I was just beginning to grasp some of the like specialist pairings you could do. And I was like, wow, that's really aggressive and really interesting, because at this point he had Alex on the run and she had her queen and like 2 other really nice specialists she had with her. And he was like, it looked like at one point he was going to just throw it down. But I think she had like a helmsman to let her move twice as fast. Yeah. So he was never going to catch up.
That helmsman was the only thing that kept her alive.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I didn't see any of this. And like, when I was talking to Matthew, he was just like, do you want this mine? And I'll take this mine, and we, we'll be friends. And we're like, hooray, friends.
Yeah,
and
that was
it. Yeah. And then, I mean, he was a little bit cautious about approaching me because he knew I was in the Boat Hell Republic, and then I very publicly, stepped out of it. And I was like, nah, man, like, we cool. So I had no idea that was happening. Absolutely none. Alex never, if Alex said something, it wasn't where I could see it.
I don't know if Alex realized what danger she was in. It was like she was like sharing screenshots, and I was like very alarmed. It was like, you need to.
Oh, I remember waking up. I was waking up and seeing on there, like checking, doing the morning check, right? Because that's what you do. And you're like, oh, I have subs on my sonar, so you like check it out. And I was like, oh, this is no good. This is no. And I jumped like on the Discord immediately, and I was just like, like hitting the telegraph wires as fast as possible, and like tapping out like SOS. You need to like get on it. I definitely thought at that point she was done and out of the game.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is using the Discord cheating?
No.
Yes.
How could it be cheating when you're playing this game on your phone and you have access to a text messaging app and you could know these people? See, I feel like maybe that in this game we talk about the feelings that having the Discord brought out, but it almost seems like, I know this game's older and they probably won't ever change the design, but if the chat room had the ability to make private chat rooms and you knew there were private chat rooms, like it would...
They do.
A new private chat room has been made. Like, you would get the same feeling of, oh yeah, people are conspiring, because you almost have to kind of know that's going down, especially if you have friends, right, that know each other. Wouldn't it just be really easy to just text everybody or Twitter them?
Oh, we talked about it in the office all the time. We were just like, this, yeah. Pearson, Will, and Chris and I were all just sitting there talking shit about the whole thing. Like, so I guess I kind of assumed that, like, I assumed that it was possible people could be plotting against me or Discord or otherwise, but Did you all kick me out of the Republic chat? I never went back after I left, so...
Yes, we actively removed people that were betraying the ideals of the United Boat Hell Republic.
I was considerably more... Okay, first of all, your Boat Hell Republic attacked and murdered people, and the Queerdom attacked and murdered no one. We were the ones who were doing things for the best, for the past.
We were peacekeepers.
That is not what you were.
We were securing resources for prosperity.
First order!
Within the first 24 hours of the Republic existing, we came up with a treatise on how to torture opponents by sending subs to attack them in the middle of the night when they sleep. We debated how to make smuggler subs. We made fast response forces.
Okay, excuse me. The torture people was specifically an anecdote that I was sharing from another game.
I
did not condone torture,
before, but it was still just like,
it was just funny. I remember thinking, like, Danjo wrote out this very nice, like, we're going to get together, we're going to decide equally where the resources are going to go, and then within 24 hours we were making very, very, like, warlike declarations and moves and figuring out things, and I was kind of like, oh, this is funny that we made this little republic, and almost instantly it has turned into, like, every version of, like, Soviet Russia that I studied as a Russian history person. It was just like aggressive. We need to attack the capitalists. They're going to attack us at some point. We need to make this happen. It was very interesting. I definitely thought that was a funny part.
Funny once I left.
Yeah.
Like, once I left and once I really paid attention to what the Republic, that's in scare quotes, was doing, then I started to find it funny. But mostly just so that I could not do it.
So one of the things that like I have used actively in my games has been sharing screenshots with people that I had planned to betray at some point, or at least I told them I was working with them, but I really wasn't, because I just needed them to go in on someone else because that person was going to be a problem for me later out. Like, that person was going to stop me from achieving one of my secret goals later on down the line. So I just needed that war to happen.
So you're coming into the game planning on betraying people, Rob, is what you're saying.
No. Coming into the game,
it just naturally happens.
So no. I'm just going to say that at one point in time, I told someone that I was going to do an attack to make it look like I was going to attack them, but at the last minute, I was going to schedule those attacks to be a gift. And then I took a screenshot of me doing that, and then sent them a Twitter message with that image in it, and then I immediately canceled those orders.
That's a real jerk move.
But it ended the game.
For the greater good, right?
Yes, the only ethical thing you can do.
We are running out of time.
Okay. I will say this: the only ethical thing you can do in Boat Hell is make it so that it ends sooner.
And we're back to the nihilism, folks. Any closing remarks on this experience? Anything else you want to say before we sign off of Boat Hell once and for all?
Yeah, let's do Hades Star next week.
No.
Yes.
Is that the one that's like 12 months long or something?
God. Get out.
Hades Star is fun though. It's more cooperative. It's cooperative.
Get out.
You help people.
I helped people.
I have closing thoughts.
Okay. What do you think?
So, I think especially in games that ask you to lie to people, it's really important to set out really clear boundaries ahead of time of what counts and what doesn't. And I think if your assumptions match up with everyone else's, of like, okay, we're all playing in this app, or we're all going to play in this kind of, we're all going to take on a persona, or we're all going to do this, or we're all going to try and win, or whatever. I guess maybe it's fun if you don't do that for some people. But to me, creating that kind of social anxiety and that social distrust is just not what I want to do with my time. Not because I think it's like not fun gameplay. I'm sure people have a lot of fun with that, but I don't think it's fair, which is why I think using the Discord was cheating, because we hadn't made it kind of clear that those were options, right? So not everyone was playing the same game, and I think that's what I distrust about games like this, is that they encourage a kind of super user to take advantage of the fact that not everyone has access to everything, right? Which I guess you could say, oh, that's how the real world works. But, like, I live in the real world, so no thanks.
Yeah, and I think on the one hand, that is on me for not necessarily trying to lay that out. I did spend a lot of time trying to, like, just in Pearson's case, trying to impress upon him the importance of actually getting allies. I think, and I go back and forth on this game, whether it is absolutely terrible or it is maddeningly balanced to the point where even if you are coordinating with like 4 or 5 people, it is still exceptionally difficult to do what you like to make that an easy traipse to the end. Like, even with sharing those screenshots and whatever and marshalling those resources, Pearson was still outstripping us in terms of productivity and all that stuff. Like, there are mechanics in the game where it is almost a bad idea to get into a fight, which is super weird. Mm-hmm. Just having been around the game as long as I have, I almost never I never start a fight. Usually I like do a very quick single movement sort of thing, and that's like at the end of the game. In most cases, I try to just like have certain borders and that's about it. But I think you're right. Like, I should have at the very least tried to like make those stakes a little bit more clearly articulated, because I think the game is very bad about explaining how that stuff can shake out. In part, I think because it's people involved and the developers are not going to be able to anticipate all that stuff, but I think they could have done a better job even in the tutorials. The tutorials are explicitly focused on the combat, and that stuff is completely useless if you were very good at the social game.
But how can the tutorial even teach you? So, I mean, it can't have like a AI chatbot that, you know, actively manipulates you or makes promises or tries to get you to do things. I think part of when I played this game, I came at it, you know, I play a lot of war games, it's sort of my background, and I definitely came at this from like a diplomacy perspective. And I think what's interesting is that when you play diplomacy, a lot of playing the game is the affordance, I hate to use this term, but the affordances the game gives you. And when you play diplomacy, you play in a physical space where you can go to a corner and whisper with someone and create little secret plans, right? Seems like when you play this game on a phone, you're going to have all the affordances of having a mobile piece of technology that's connected to the internet that comes with that game. It's just like an adjacent juxtaposition to it, right? It's right there. You're going to have texting or you're going to have Discord. That to me is really interesting. I didn't really think about that in terms of the game, but knowing that this game was very much a social game, I figured that any of those kind of social rules were definitely going to be in play. Just because I've played other games like this where you have to do secret moves with people, or you have to secretly betray them, or that's part of how you win is to get them to help you out, and then you have to turn the knife at one point in order to become the, you know, victory point leader. So, you know, I found this game to be interesting. I would definitely play it again. The 7 days thing, I said I've made it clear is kind of a turnoff for me. I think it's just a little too long. But at the same time, I could see how this game could easily fold in on itself and end in like 5 days or something if particularly crazy things went down. But just because of the way the combat works and the way that it's easy for a defensive player to kind of stay in the game longer, I wish it was shorter. But yeah, I found it was interesting. I would probably play it again for sure.
Chris, closing remarks as the winner of Boat Hell, the boatiest of boats in all of Boat Hell.
The pacifist, the
grand
negotiator. I believe a message I sent at the end of this game was, like, to a friend of mine who I played Subterfuge with a fair bit, was, "So help me God, this game of Subterfuge is devolving into peace talks."
Mr. Boatiest.
I did do that at the end, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
It was very good. It was very good.
It was good.
I don't have anything cogent to add on top of what I've already discussed.
Fair. It was an interesting experience, and it seemed like at the end you were just trying to hold it all together in a way that nobody would be mad at you for winning, but nobody was mad at you for winning, trust us.
Yeah. No. Well done.
I was a little mad.
Okay, tell us more, Will.
Will, you had no hope. You had no hope.
I beat you, Rob.
No, Chris did you a favor by ending the game just before I killed you.
You did not kill me. It wouldn't have happened. I scrolled forward, you didn't have enough subs.
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't have happened.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Don't at me, Rob.
I scrubbed forward.
I had sonar on all sides of you.
So, I think that about wraps us up. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining us for the podcast and for joining us on this tour of the Boat Hell, and thank you to Janjo and Matthew and Alex and Pearson for playing. We wish you could have been on the podcast too, but I don't know that 10 people shouting would have been the best format for a podcast, but it did make for an interesting game. I think that's it, folks. Hooray!
It's over. We're free.
We're done.
We're free.
We're done with the boat hell. Chris,
The thing that
were you our panopticon, Chris? Yes, I did that. I did that specifically to piss off Pearson, by the way. Anyways, ignore the question. Jason, erase that. Go on. Yep, okay, cool. Alright, so, yeah, cut that part, Jason or Rob.
God.
Where were we? Yeah.
Please don't make me edit this. I have no time.
Oh, yeah. Jason, cut that! Jason has so many cuts of me yelling, Jason, cut that, and he puts them on the end of all the podcasts.